Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation aims to stimulate, celebrate and reward innovation and entrepreneurship in sub-Saharan Africa. The Africa Prize encourages ambitious and talented sub-Saharan African engineers from all disciplines to apply their skills to develop scalable solutions to local challenges, highlighting, of course, the importance of engineering as an enabler to improved quality of life and economic development. Now, following this period of mentorship, finalists will be invited to present at an event held in Africa, and a winner will be selected to receive $25,000 US. Now, for more on the story, we're now joined in studio by Lisbeth Botha, who is a judge in the prize, of course, the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation, and an executive director at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Lisbeth, that's a mouthful. Welcome to A News.
Thank you, Dumelo. Good to be here.
Great to have you here. What is the purpose, of course, for the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation?
Well, the main purpose is to create awareness around engineers. You know, engineers create things, they fix things, they make things, they build communities, they build countries, they build economies. So we want people to know about engineers and what they do. We also want to encourage young engineers and older engineers to really take their inventions and the things that they've made further to actually build these economies and make businesses out of their ideas.
And then who is then eligible to enter, of course, for the prize giving?
Well, anybody who calls him or herself a research engineer or a young budding engineer or an older budding engineer, preferably at, at something like a university or a science council where they would be developing new ideas, new things, new methods in engineering, they're all eligible for this prize.
Now, you spoke earlier on so passionately about engineers and how, of course, engineers are some sort of a need in communities. But what do you think is the role of engineering, of course, and innovation in African economies?
Well, African economies, as you know, needs infrastructure in order to prosper, and people need devices and systems for them to improve their quality of life. If you think of health systems, transport systems, energy systems, all of those things are built and designed and invented by engineers. So engineers form not only the backbone of the infrastructure but also of the economy. Engineers come up with new ways of providing electricity to communities. They are the ones that go out and actually install those systems in the communities. If you think of the renewable energy systems such as the solar panels and the system around that create electricity for communities in the rural areas that are not on the grid, those are all the kinds of things that engineers come up with, and they actually go out and do it. Yeah. So engineers are very, very important for infrastructure in Africa and for the economy that's built on that. But engineers also come up with new things that they can make and then build businesses around that. And that creates jobs for anybody. If there's new engineering and new manufacturing, new systems that must be installed, the engineers go out and do that.
Now, let's get into the prize giving as well at this moment. How can people then enter, and when is the closing date?
There's a website, rang@org.uk, where they'll find the entry forms and the rules and so on. Basically, they have to describe their inventions or their new ideas, and they also have to think of the business plan around this new invention or idea that they have, and that is how they enter. They go to the website, fill in the form, after they've, of course, come up with the ideas and the business plans. I'm not sure about the closing date. I think it is May, but rather check on the website. Yeah. I'm not too sure about that. After that, there will be a process where we will shortlist some of the entrants, and then they will go into a mentorship program where they will become part of the community of innovators and entrepreneurs in engineering, and they will get a lot of help and support from a number of very experienced mentors that have actually done this in the real world. And then somewhere towards the end of the year, there'll be a final judging of the finalists, and they will all go to London early next year for the prize giving.
Oh, interesting. And of course, for all those who are keen to, of course, enter and find out more information, of course, about the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation, well, the contact details, of course, at the bottom of your screen. So make sure that you jot them down and write them down, and make sure that you do find out more about, the information regarding Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation. But Liesbeth, how important is it then for South Africans to participate in this prize giving?
Are very important. South Africa has always been a major source of engineers for Africa. If you think, for instance, of the cell phone network, the engineers that actually designed and came up with the implementation methods of doing, the towers, the Vodacom, the NTN. Oh, I shouldn't name those companies, but they're South African engineers that came up with those new systems, and they go out all over Africa to install these systems. South Africa is a very important source of engineers and innovation in Africa. And I think it's inspiring if the South African engineers actually, enter this competition, because they then help to create the awareness in their own communities around engineering. South Africa, like all the other sub-Saharan African countries, can never have enough engineers. So for South African engineers to become role models is very important. So that's why we want South African engineers particularly. I mean, it's to build up our country. They will also build up South Africa and our economy if more of them get the opportunity to develop.
And I've also noticed that you focused on sub-Saharan African engineers. Is there a reason as to why you only focused on that part of the continent?
Well, it's really the Royal Academy who came up with this Engineering Innovation Prize really wanted to support this region. I think there are many other ways of creating awareness in Europe or in Northern Africa around engineering, because Northern Africa is much more connected with Europe. So they felt that this would be a nice opportunity for a part of the world that hasn't received so much encouragement and promotion around engineering to target specifically sub-Saharan Africa. But there's also, of course, the fact that there are so many blossoming economies around sub-Saharan Africa, particularly around gas and oil these days, that Africa needs more and more engineers, and I think the Royal Society, or the Royal Academy, I mean, in the UK realizes this, and they're trying to support and promote.
All right, then, Liesbeth, thank you so much for coming to AME News and just sharing the good news with us about the prize giving. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tumelo.
All right, then. That was Liesbeth Botha, who's, of course, a judge in the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation. Well, that's where we leave it at that. But when we come back, of course, we still continue with our bulletin right here on AM News. Stay tuned.